will go ahead and get started this evening. Let's start and open this evening with our Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Welcome to our guests that are with us here in the room, and welcome to our guests that are watching from home. Can I have a motion and a second on our agenda tonight?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Moving on, we will go to 2.01, Dr. Buck, our superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody. First off, thanks for everyone who was able to make convocation, including all 7 board members. I really appreciate that. Wanted to say that we had 2,900 plus employees and probably close to 300 kids involved in that, so it was a good day. So thank you for that, and I appreciate the commissioner and both our state supervisors for coming as well, and all the vendors who were out there. We had quite a few vendors. I think we had 27 vendors as well come to the vendor fair before it. On public engagement piece, we're going to have our first speaker series on Wednesday, August 31st, and it's going to be our Lee Summit Police Department leading it to talk a little bit about the opioid and fentanyl epidemic. So parents, if you want to learn more about what's going on, what to look out for, educate yourselves, that'll be on Wednesday, August 31st. It'll be at 6 p.m. And you do sign up for those, I believe. Katie, do you sign up or you just show up? There's a registration link, and we do post those after the fact as well. We'll also, on Monday at 4 p.m., we'll be hosting our dedication of East Trails Middle School. So if you want to come out and see East Trails Middle School, anyone's welcome. We'll have a little ceremony there and then take a tour. And then last thing I would say is that we do have some support staff openings, particularly custodian openings. So if anybody is looking for a job or knows somebody that was looking for a job, we could do some more custodians. So just contact our HR team or call any of us. We'll put you in contact with the right person. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Buck. We'll move now to item 3.01, our Geometry and Construction and Robotics project update. We've got Kelly Dreyer from Multi-Studio.
Good evening, everyone. So we want to provide an update to a presentation that we gave a couple board meetings ago on robotics and geometry and construction at all 3 high schools, starting with Lee Summit High School. I think last time we left with talking about creating equity between all the schools, and particularly relative to the robotics component. And so happy to say that since then we have incorporated a new robotics practice field as an addition to the existing robotics facility at Lee Summit High School. So you can see that in the middle of your screen, and then in the upper right hand, we are still planning on a new GIC lab that is replacing one of the old robotics locations in E building at Lee Summit High. Also, you'll see dashed in there is a covered outdoor build space that's adjacent to that. That's to create a space that will be similarly constructed of the new facilities at both Lee Summit North and West. But this is just a view of what that looks like. In simple terms, we basically put one additional bay to D building that's on the north side of Lee Summit High School, extending that building about 2,100 square feet, or expanding it rather around 2,100 square feet, and that will accommodate the field. This is a plan view of what that looks like. The area shaded gray to the north, that's existing building, and everywhere in that red or pink zone is the new construction to the south. And just showing that part of this project has been both accommodation of all the tooling and machines that they have within their existing facility while also providing enough room for expansion in the future. This is just a few views of that space. So this is standing in their classroom environment. That's basically standing within their existing environment, looking south toward the new addition. You can see one thing that we're trying to incorporate into this new addition is some daylighting that they have into that program. Again, that'll be similar to what we're constructing at both north and west. And a similar view from the other side, from the machine side, also looking south. And just kind of a view of that addition itself, where the field is located. This is the GIC renovation, rather, that's of where the existing robotics is being replaced. This is the northwest corner of E building, and for the most part, that's providing 2,000 square feet for that program, which is equitable to what we're doing at the other two schools. And then up at the top of your page, as shown before, is a 1,000 square foot exterior build space, covered exterior build space for that program. And just a few views of that. So these are views of a renovated space that exists today. And as you can see, that program's really meant to accommodate a variety of scaled projects, anything from like a smaller shed space that they could construct inside the building throughout the year, or larger projects that they do outside. Staying at Lee Summit High's location, looking at the physical education work that's being done. Part of this is a renovation of the existing weights room, plus an expansion of the locker area within the existing locker and office area, and then an expansion of the weights program to the north, again, where one of the robotics facilities is leaving this building. We'd be expanding weights into that zone. So this is what that looks like. Weight room 1 is an existing weight room today that's just being renovated. Weight room number 2 is an expansion of that. And then the renovations to the locker room and coaches' offices, which the primary motivation there being trying to get 100 lockers to accommodate kind of all of the needs of that program. This is just showing a cross-section of this portion of building E, showing that we are trying to make a connection between the existing and future expansion of the weights program, so that they have one continuous space, giving them much more flexibility than what they have today. And this just reflects some of the upgrades that you'll see in those spaces, primarily new flooring and turf, equipment, paint on the walls, and again, that connection between the two spaces. Looking at the locker room, again, primarily trying to expand that locker room so that they have a minimum of 100 lockers, and then giving them the room that they need within that space that they don't have today. And then the renovations to the various offices is really just to accommodate that specific need. And a rendering of that space when it's complete. If we move to Lee Summit North and West, we'll be looking at those two, the robotics and geometry and construction programs together, because those buildings are very similar. And so if you look at North Site, I think we'd reviewed this before, but just to kind of provide some quick context, this new facility is located on the southeast corner of the existing gymnasium. And you can see that about a third of that program is the GIC facing west, and the robotics on the east side. And just a view of what that begins to look like. You'll see that there are drives to both sides of this building for material loading, loading of their robot, of course, and various things that go along with that programming. And then the building itself being rather simple materials, CMU toward as a lower water table band on the building that provides a more durable surface for the exterior construction that's happening around this facility, as well as the machining and tools that are up against the interior perimeter of the building, with the top portion of the building being a corrugated metal facade that where some of that corrugation is opaque, and then some is perforated in order to allow daylight through. Looking at Lee Summit West, a similar orientation on the southern loop of the classroom bar, and you'll see that we've relocated 2 of the mobile units that were sitting underneath the footprint of the new facility. So they're just shifting up north. That gives them proximity to the adjacent classrooms, so it should be easy for students to navigate similarly to what it is today. And again, views of that location. Again, similar, very similar building, but just different siting at Lee Summit West. Looking at a plan, again, very simple plan, 2,000 square foot geometry and construction space on the left side of your screen. Similarly, overhead door access to exterior build space that's covered. The robotics facility, which is around 4,000 square feet on the east or right side of your screen, and also with overhead doors for access. And then, of course, they have the field incorporated into this new facility. And then a core that just provides restrooms and needed space for mechanical and other needs of the building. And similarly, just relocation of the equipment that they have today to better and more safely serve those functions. And a few views. So this is standing in their classroom environment. This is an after-school program, of course, and so having their own classroom and even a kitchenette for eating dinner, and all the parents who kindly bring that dinner to them each evening is kind of a necessity. And then you can see that kind of opening into the machine lab of the robotics facility. And all of that is, of course, open to that zone where the field will be located as well. So. And then similarly, the geometry and construction, again, is around 2,000 square feet, is a new programming at the Lee Summit, within the Lee Summit School District. And so all of that equipment and furniture will be newly provided as a part of this project, and ready for when it's open. So this is some views from within the geometry and construction side. So the glass that you're seeing on the left is looking into the main entry. So when you come into the building, whether you're going to robotics or GIC, you'll have views into the geometry and construction side and being able to see some of that. And when we don't have a rendering of it, you'll be able to look straight ahead and kind of see into the robotics as well. This slide's a little out of date. Today is actually in August. But as you can see on this timeline, September 8th is the date that we're targeting for completion of our documentation of the project and going out to bid. We're planning for a 1-month bidding period that ends in early October, and then moving into construction yet the end of this year. And so all of that will be timed and coordinated with the renovation projects, and with an intended move-in date in August of 23. And that's all we have for you this evening. Any questions?
Board Member Murdoch?
I'm
Can you help me with the orientation on Lee Summit West?
Sure.
What?
You know where Summit Ridge is, right?
Right, that's
On the
what
way
I'm-
to Summit Ridge, you pass two mobiles that's got some industrial tech in there. That's where it's going to be, and they're going to shift those mobiles around. So, yeah, so it's also on the southeast corner of the building, just like at North, but
Yeah.
Okay, but that won't impact the
No.
the traffic or even Summit Ridge to any extent?
no.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Sorry. Hopefully I wasn't the only one. I was struggling with that one just a little bit, so.
I think I had asked the question, I just want to make sure, and Kyle, I think you had shared, we know that the robotics teams will use their existing places this year. And they'll have access to those facilities because their season is starts in January. So this construction won't impact their season this year, and they'll be in the new facility before their next season, right?
Correct.
Great,
That's correct.
thank you.
Yeah.
And you must have met with them if you know parents bring dinners and things like that. That's awesome.
Met with them a few times.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. That's
Yeah,
great.
Of course. It's an amazing program.
Agree. Any other questions? Oh, Board Member Fritchie, Vice President Fritchie?
I just like to say thank you to everyone who listened last time about that feedback about equity for Lee Summit High School. I think it's fantastic that you were able to add the field onto the front of that building so that they could have an equitable space to practice their bots.
Yeah, of course. That'll be a great addition for all three programs that don't have that adjacency today. So it's nice that we were able to do that for Lisa.
Looks fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Vice President Fritchie? Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Thanks so much. Have a good evening. And I think Dr. Buck would like a go back, so we'll jump back to 2.01.
Well, hot off the press today, we also got news, and I meant to say it out loud, but it wasn't in my written report yet, that today DESE announced the 17 semifinalists for 2023 Missouri State Teacher of the Year. And our own Holly Dawn, Kim's daughter, is one of the 17 semifinalists in the entire state of Missouri. So congratulations to Holly Dawn.
Awesome. That's great news. All right, now we'll move on to item 3.02, our Lee Summit Educational Foundation presentation. Our director, Chrissy Sims,
that's okay. I get it all the time. Well, thank you all for having me for a few moments today. I'll try to keep it brief, but always know I'm right across the hall if you have any additional questions. First, I will start by showing you a slide of our board of directors. You might see a familiar face on that sheet. We also are happy to have Kim Fritchie continuing to serve as our one of our advisory board members. So we have an amazing board of passionate people with excellent expertise. So we are in good hands with them. Next, here we are, the staff. There are 3 of us. Of course, myself, the director. Jordan Newman is our programs and development specialist. She's been here for over 5 years. And Krista Fish is our new addition. She started about a month ago, and we brought her over from Ray Peck High School. So she has been an awesome addition to our staff. Briefly, I will mention these are some highlights from our impact report. You guys may have that sitting in front of you too, the full version. It's also on our website. This is something we mailed to all of our sponsors last year just to give them a high-level overview of what all we accomplished and where their dollars went. We ranged everything from everywhere from technology to our classroom grants to the science kits that the elementary students utilized last year. We also have nearly 100 donor funds that we manage. So we've got scholarships in there and school-specific programs. So that's just kind of an overview of the 21-22 school year, or a recap, I should say. This is a snapshot of our financials, again, from last year. Our income, as you can see, is primarily from sponsorships and our events. We also have our Lee Summit LSR7 annual fund drive, which is an internal campaign that we do. We have probably about 74,000 of that is from our 7 staff, which says a lot that they would dedicate part of their paychecks to come back to the foundation. So we appreciate that, and it allows us to invest back into the school district. You can see it's pretty diverse. We have several grants that you see. Taste of Lee Summit, part of our income goes back to the music parent programs and Great Beginnings. They send volunteers to help with our auction, and some of our revenue then goes back to them in exchange. As far as Major Saver goes, everyone's familiar with the Major Saver program. That'll be coming up in February, and we get our share of the dollars, and we provide half of that back to the schools based on the amount that they brought in through that program. So we're constantly trying to find ways to partner with different groups or entities within the school district and put as much money back as we can. Peak grants, that's what we're known for, and if you're not familiar with what a peak grant it's the classroom grants. I'm sure you've seen a lot of photos of these star balloons and big checks floating about, especially during the spring. We post our applications in the winter and have a February deadline for teachers to have the opportunity to apply for things that they can use in their classrooms with their students. And again, on the impact report, it will show what areas in which we fund these. We work with a team who reviews all of the applications, rates them, and we try to, really maximize our budget. So it can be math manipulatives, STEM labs, we've got classroom libraries. There's just a wide variety of things that the teachers have asked for. So as you can see in some of these photos, they're very happy when those checks come their way. Our funding priorities for this year are going to look somewhat similar to what they were last year. We're going to fund the science kits again. Those go to all elementary classrooms with consumable items that they can use for hands-on experiments and activities to support the curriculum. We're going to do another $88,000 as part of a 4-year agreement for Tech for Teachers. So that's going to help with the lease on their Surface Books, docking stations, wireless keyboards, etc. Our classroom grants will do again $60,000. And then a new item that we've done this year is $30,000 in new teacher grants in honor of our 30th anniversary. In 1992-93 school year, while I was a freshman over at Lee Summit High School, Cheryl Franke was over here working with different members of the community and the school district to form the Lee Summit Educational Foundation. And now I get to come back here 30 years later and work with this foundation. So it's pretty awesome. We're going to weave the 30th anniversary into some of our events this year, so look for that to happen. But the first kickoff to that was that we awarded $30,000, actually more because there are so many new teachers to the district this year. So I think we're closer to $35,000, but all new teachers to the school district received $200 in grants to get their classrooms up and running. So they were all very happy about that. We presented those at the Chamber of Commerce's New Teacher Breakfast on August 11th, and then for those that are later hires, we're hand delivering those to the schools. I've touched upon some of these, but these are the events and the ways in which we make the money that we are investing back. So we've got our Friends of the Foundation campaign. That's our external sponsorship campaign. There are actually several people in the room who support the foundation. We appreciate you all. We also have our annual fund drive, as I mentioned earlier. That's going on right now. That's our internal campaign through the district. A brand new event that we're hosting this year is the Community Breakfast, where we are going to host that at East Trails Middle School. I'll show you a slide here in a second with the program. But that's our way of trying to show the community what all the school has going on. So hopefully it will have a similar level of excitement as Convocation had, and we'll be able to share that with the community. Major Savers in February. Race for the Future is October 8th. We hope you guys can come to that. That's at Lee Summit West again. And then Taste of Lee Summit will be on March 4th. This is just kind of a brief overview of the Community Breakfast program. Everyone is invited. You can register through our website. We're going to involve some student performances. I believe we've got at least part of a marching band that will be greeting people in the parking lot as they arrive. Holly Dawn will speak to us. Donnie Campbell, who is the inspiration behind the character of Ted Lasso, if you guys have seen that show, he will be there as our keynote. And then we'll have, of course, a presentation about the foundation so people out in the community can learn a little bit more about what we do. And that will be at East Trails. We'll also have tours available at the end for people to have the opportunity to check out the school. This is just a glimpse of our Friends of the Foundation brochure, which you guys probably also have at your place setting. And then a final plug, we are selling T-shirts to show R7 Pride. That's a common theme over the past year or so, is just how proud we are of public schools and about our school specifically. So we have these shirts that we are selling through the foundation. You guys are all more than welcome to order one. That was really fast. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Board members, any questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the hard work you guys do.
Oh, yes, of course.
Awesome. All right. We'll move on now to our public comments, item 4.01 on our agenda. And Board Member Murdoch, could I ask you to please share our statement regarding public comments?
Absolutely. For tonight, we do appreciate those of you who have come to do public speaking, and we appreciate your attendance. Please remember that while this is a public meeting, this part of the meeting does not contemplate a conversation between speakers and board members. The board does not respond to public comments during the meeting, but may ask clarifying questions. Your comments will be noted by the board, and if appropriate, we will direct the subject to the administrators who are responsible for that particular subject matter. Pursuant to Board Policy BDDH, we will be limiting all comments to no more than 10 people, with a limit of 3 minutes each. Your allotted 3 minutes will be counted down on the screen. Please conclude your comments when the timer expires. Only those who have signed up prior to the meeting will be allowed to address the board tonight. And please refrain from using the names of any student, staff in your remarks. Please remain respectful and ensure your comments pertain to district operations. We also ask all audience members to remain respectful. Lastly, when your name is called, please go to the podium. Clearly state your name and organization you represent, if any. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Murdoch. First up, we'll have Christine Bushyhead and then Danielle Ripley Burgess, if you want to get prepped, because you'll be second.
Good evening. Christine Bushyhead. I am a resident, a business owner, and a parent within the boundaries of the R7 school district. This fall will mark our 4th anniversary of the decision of the school district and the elected officials to pursue a very intentional and very critical conversation about equity and access to education. Unfortunately, with the most divisive approach to the conversation in the mainstream today. The result, chaos. Lack of academic achievement for all students, and the lack of discipline to foster an academically achieving environment at the cost of millions and millions of dollars. There is a simpler alternative, a different approach, a more pro-human approach that many school district parents, guardians, and patrons have continued to seek. And there is now a national organization to guide us. FAIR at fairforall.org. The pro-human answer to intolerance and racism. FAIR programming is more inclusive than the consultants of the district has used thus far, whose ownership and directors only represent Black Americans and white Americans. Check out the Board of Advisors of FAIR. Then the district might be embarrassed by the lack of diversity in the district's approach to equity and access programming, which is the MSIP 6 key element. And considering that we have 19 different languages spoken in the homes of our district, a more diverse approach to this conversation might be warranted. FAIR, the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to advancing civil rights and liberties for all Americans and promoting a common culture based on fairness, understanding, and humanity. They have programs focused on transparency, story, diversity, network, education, medicine, arts, and at work. Their pro-human and adjective approach is defined advocating for one human race, universal civil rights and liberties, and compassionate opposition to racism and intolerance rooted in dignity and our common humanity. As I've asked in the past, what is the outcome for the district's equity plan? For it lacks specificity. Why could it not be simply to establish and implement a culture of fairness, understanding, and humanity? For living in such a culture would probably prepare our students for success in the more inclusive, pro-human world they will be entering and hopefully contributing to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have Daniel Ripley Burgess.
Hi, I'm Danielle Ripley Burgess. I've lived in Lee Summit all my life. I'm about to go to my 20-year high school reunion from Lee Summit North. I met my husband there, and we've chosen to stay here and raise our family. I'm not part of officially representing a group tonight, but I am part of Suburban Balance. And I'm also very aware I do not look like most parents who come from Suburban Balance, but I felt like sharing some stories with you tonight about what my family's encountered would be really important for you to hear. I think I was naive to think that when we enrolled my daughter in school that her journey through LSR7 would be similar to my husband and I's. And I say that because we're two white parents raising a mixed little girl. And her journey has been similar as far as opportunity, and I think the opportunities have been amazing, even better than what we had. We sure didn't have Chromebooks by the school district, but her experience has been wildly different, and I can compare that to experiences I have faced as a student. I never had students touching my hair. I never had students looking at my complexion telling me I was of a different race. I always had teachers who looked like me and showed me that I could be a leader and look like I do. And I've never had to deal with a racial slur up to this day like what she's encountered. 2 years ago when she started 4th grade, it was the first time she'd been called the N-word, and he didn't stop there, and I'll just save it. But just know we're still working through those issues today, 2 years later. It's made an incredible impact on her. And I think these stories are important for you guys to hear because this is the chatter happening in our schools and it's real. And so I'm here, I've been trying to catch up on springtime school board meetings and public comments, and I'm here to ask that we stay the course on this equity plan. A new school year is underway. Our community is once again in the news regarding these racial issues, and so equity needs to be at the top of our school district's discussions, and stories like what we're encountering, I think, need to be really considered. So I ask that we stay the course. I'm not saying that we can't have constructive conversations, that we shouldn't better define outcomes, but I am saying that going backwards is not how we're going to go forwards. And the last thing I'm going to ask is that if I've learned anything as a white mom raising a not white little girl, it's that the burden of advocating for these kind of conversations, it's not fair to put it on people of color or people who are different or anybody who falls within the equity plan and feels like this is for me. It's not on them all the time to propel this forward, but the leadership of these kinds of plans needs to be led by people who they affect the most. And this community is full of amazing moms and dads, especially moms and dads of color, who are ready to come to the table and lead the conversations. And I want to be there to listen to what they have to say and learn from them. And these kinds of things can't be led by people that look like me. And so, thank you.
Thank you. Next we'll have Amy Cook. And then following Amy will be Dr. Emmanuel Cleaver III.
Good evening. I'm Amy Cook. I am representing myself, no other person other than our community. An earlier presenter spoke about FAIR, the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. I would like to highlight to you the FAIR Education Program. This information is readily available on the FAIR website, fairforall.org. That's FAIRFORALL.org. FAIR in education recognizes the unique and complex challenges faced by K-12 schools and educators. To address these challenges, FAIR offers comprehensive consulting services that promote compassionate, constructive, and pro-human approach to countering racism and intolerance in school communities. FAIR's educational services and resources help schools create positive learning communities and encourages a sense of acceptance by emphasizing the values of teachers, administrators, board members, and families to work together towards a more optimistic future. FAIR teacher training workshops have one specific goal: to create a culture of fairness, understanding, and humanity in K-12 schools and classrooms. All trainings are offered in K-5 and 6-12 versions and may be further adopted by grade level band. In addition, FAIR in Education provides school and educators with support in developing constructive policies, guides, and other documents to help establish the foundational values necessary to foster healthy school communities. FAIR offers a comprehensive external review of communications materials such as websites, policy statements, school publications, and more. FAIR will provide concrete and actionable feedback on your school's messaging and policies to highlight pro-human values such as compassion, courage, fairness, understanding, and a sense of shared humanity. I encourage you, our school district elected officials, for the sake of our community and our children, to take a more inclusive approach to the equity and access programming and invite all students to experience a sense of acceptance in this district, something that has been absent for some time.
Thank you. Dr. Emmanuel Cleaver III. And following him will be Adriana Paez.
Emmanuel Cleaver III, parent of Lisa North Sr. Diversity is a reality that we cannot run from. In this room, there are people from different political, religious, and social affiliations. Why wouldn't we want education to reflect that reality? If you go to a Kansas City Chiefs game, you will see and hear from people from various backgrounds. Why wouldn't we want education to reflect that reality? The world is made up of diverse perspectives, and humanity is better for it. Why wouldn't we want education to reflect that reality? By 1880 and on into the early part of the 20th century, there were thousands upon thousands of non-speaking English immigrants pouring into American ports. During this period, an English playwright by the name of Israel Zangwill introduced a play entitled The Melting Pot. It was a metaphor of how people from different backgrounds, languages, nationalities, and races would come together and become one. A melting pot, in all actuality, eliminates differences. And the problem with that is we were created different, so why not celebrate that? A concept that's better than the melting pot is the salad bowl. This is where different ingredients are added to one bowl to become one meal, but you still taste the different elements of the salad. In fact, the salad is better because there are different and a number of different parts that make up the salad. It's a multicultural society that brings different people together from one to form one while maintaining their various identities. That's the reality we live in. And why wouldn't we want education to reflect that? There have been a number of studies that have shown that equity, diversity, and inclusion in the classroom help to transform the way we view the world and understand it. It benefits teachers and students in that they are equipped to handle fairness and equality. In other words, they're able to handle the real world. In order for LSR7 to live into the reality that is the world, and it was the world, and it shall continue to be, we need diversity, equity, and inclusion in education. The only way to celebrate the different parts that make up the salad bowl, which is the reality of this nation, we must continue down the diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. So I encourage the board to continue down this road.
Thank you. Next, we have Adriana Paez, and following her will be Madison Grubbs.
Hello, my name's Adriana Paez. I'm a parent and community member. I've spoken a couple of times, and the last couple of times I was speaking about engaging students and civic participation, and I'm kind of going to speak more from the perspective of a community member and a parent, but kind of mixing in some of those previous themes as well. I've been a part of the there's a large Facebook group that is focused on equity in LSR7. And I've recently taken an opportunity to be more present and attempting to create more opportunities for people in this community, not limited to the Facebook group, but people in our community that care about things like equity and diversity and inclusion and belonging, which I also value very much. I'm looking for opportunities, ways to engage my fellow community members, parents, and students in discussion and dialogue and conversations about ways that we can make this the kind of community that everyone is happy to be a part of, where everyone feels valued and welcomed and celebrated and can be their authentic selves. So this is somewhat of a kind of invitation, again, to encourage us all to notice the opportunities that we have every day to meet someone new, to listen to somebody else's experiences, and to learn from one another, and to find opportunities and ways that we can connect, even when it might not appear that we have things in common. I hear a lot of similar things tonight and from other, previous public comments. I think we have a community with lots of citizens who are interested in being a part of the community, in the school community, and other opportunities that exist here in Lee Summit. And so I'm really just here to kind of present myself as someone who is taking I think a bigger step into a role of trying to create more of these shared spaces for more of us to engage and get to know one another and hopefully connect and build the kind of community that creates excellent opportunities for all of us. Thanks.
Thank you. Madison Grubbs. And then following Madison will be Kristen Grubbs.
Hello, my name is Madison. I am going into 6th grade this year. Had nothing changed last year, I would not be standing here before you today. I've gone through so much. I've been battling mental health for a long time now. A lot of people think that adults struggle more than juveniles with mental health. Juveniles are being affected the same as adults by suicide. The Lee Summit Police Crisis Intervention Team recorded those juveniles threatening or attempting suicide totaled to 58 for the calendar year of 2021. There were 3 complete suicides by juveniles that year in Lee Summit. Hope Squad is a wonderful program that helps prevent suicide in young people. It trains trustworthy students who are nominated by their peers to recognize signs of depression and anxiety. That way, when they see someone struggling, they can walk alongside them and guide them to an adult for help. I hope you allow Hope Squad into our school district. Then it can spare more parents from burying their babies. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kristen Grubbs.
My name is Kristen Grubbs, and I'm here today to share about an experience my daughter and I had in this district last year. At noon on Sunday, September 19th, I received an email from my daughter's principal saying that panorama surveys were going to be administered that Monday, the 20th. Within a few hours of receiving the email, I replied, saying I was opting my daughter out of these surveys. He replied early Monday morning, saying he'd communicate my decision to her advisory teacher. My daughter did not take the survey that Monday. However, on December 6th, I received text messages from her at school saying that she'd been given 2 surveys that day. When she got home from school, she explained that her advisory teacher, despite having been informed of my choice to opt her out, had told my daughter that she had to finish the surveys before she could get to her other schoolwork. I've since researched what is required in situations like this, and this is what I've learned. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act requires districts to notify parents of their rights annually, and federal guidance regarding the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment says the annual notification must include the specific or approximate dates of surveys. Parents have the right to inspect upon request protected information surveys and surveys created by a third party before the administration or distribution by a school or district to a student. And districts must provide parents with a reasonable notification and an opportunity to review the surveys, as well as an opportunity to opt their child out. There are 2 main things missing in our district. 1, proper notification as to what surveys will be administered and when they will be administered. And 2, a clear statement as to what the process is to opt a student out of surveys or assessments or programs, as well as the duration for which that decision is effective. Although technically, the annual notice is buried in student handbooks, parents need to be informed that panorama surveys are one of the items that they can opt their student out of. I inquired with the district earlier this week as to where I could find clarification on this process. The page on the district website that I was guided to basically just said to contact the building leader. I did that, and it was not honored last December. Clearly, there is a breakdown in communication in the district. Apart from that failure, there is a separate one of concern. I checked back in my email and never saw a notice of surveys to be taken in December. I'd been informed of the student climate and equity survey and given a link to review it in September, but I was never given a link to the social emotional learning survey that was given in December. This is unacceptable. My parental rights were violated. I'd hate for this to happen to other parents, so I'm here to make sure all board members are aware of this deficiency in our district in hopes that you will see to it that it's remedied. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes out our public comments, and we'll move on now to board reports, item 5.01 on our agenda. And let's start, Board Member Eslick, with you.
Thank you, Board President Campbell. Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure. It depends on how you look at it. I'm part of the Ed Foundation, as Chrissy Sims had presented. So much of my board report had to do with the Ed Foundation. So she covered almost pretty much everything. So the only thing I can brief by exception would be, since I wasn't present at the meeting last month, I didn't get to talk about the Board of Directors retreat that I had the esteemed opportunity to attend. The Education Foundation basically did kind of like a team building event, which was pretty amazing because I got to get to know some of the incredible people that are involved in the Education Foundation. So I really enjoyed that, just from getting to know these people who dedicate so much of their time to our kids and to this district and to our staff and teachers. So it was a treat for me. So I don't really do anything with the foundation except just absorb the things that these people are doing. So it's pretty amazing. So all I can do is sit here and brag on them. And Chrissy's not even here to hear me say that. So it's very unfortunate. So I'll just reiterate that I attended the new teacher breakfast, and that was really cool. That was put on by the Lee Summit Chamber, and it was a wonderful event. And I got to be part of handing out those $200 gift cards to all the new teachers. So that was pretty amazing. And I was very grateful that I got to be part of that. Aside from the Education Foundation, I'm not going to talk about all the events that Chrissy already shared with us, but I'll do another plug for the community breakfast, which is Friday, September 16th. So I hope you will join us, all of our board members too. Aside from those events, I also attended the Lee Summit Economic Development Council annual meeting along with Board President Campbell. She was also there. This was a pretty cool experience. It's not really school board related, but it was all about the World Cup. So their keynote speaker was Catherine Holland, the director of the KC 2026 FIFA World Cup. And that was just really cool to hear her 5-year process of being able to convince and win a bid for the World Cup here in Kansas City. So not school district related, but wow, some pretty cool attention on the community here in Kansas City. So I thought that was really amazing. So other than the Finance Committee meeting, which we had this morning, and I will talk about after everyone else's board reports, that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Board Member Murdoch?
I just want to tell you that instead of "we want the cup, we got the cup" is music to a soccer coach's and soccer lover's ears. So now I just have to find the bank account to pay for the tickets in 2026. So 4 quick things for me. We had government relations where we toured East Trails Middle School. I think that was July 22nd, the day after the board meeting. And so it seems like 5 years ago that we toured that. And of course, lots has changed there because then we went back for our work session at East Trails on August 4th and more had changed. And so that was really good. What a fantastic building. My other 2 things here. Yesterday we had convocation, and as a former teacher, it still to this day, convocation is something that gets you fired up. And I loved it. It made me want to be back in the classroom, and it was exciting to see. The bands were amazing. Step was amazing. Mrs. Don's speech was absolutely fantastic in addition to the song. So kudos to everybody for convocation. Good luck to all of the teachers and staff throughout the district this year. I hope you have an amazing year. And then for our students, obviously, I hope that it is incredibly successful as well. Lastly, I was in Pleasant Lee Middle School today. Thank you to Principal Lindquist. As a parent of kids going to that school, I appreciate you moving transition day to Monday. Having been in the school today, I think that's very beneficial to the staff and the administrators in that building. It looks phenomenal, but I am more excited to see it come next week when furniture is where it's supposed to be and teachers have had a couple of minutes to digest where they are at within the building. So, but it looks fantastic. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Board Member Sparks?
All right. Well, listen, I have been on my summer break, and that is now over. I have about 3 meetings coming up within the next 2 weeks, and so I'm excited for that. However, I am going to give the MSBA delegate report. So they want to welcome all of the kids back in the schools in the state of Missouri this coming for us, it'll be Tuesday, but across our state. Also, we want to reiterate, not only do we need custodians and classified staff to help run our buildings, but we also know through our state, we have a teacher recruitment issue, and so we need to continue pushing education and pushing the field of education. And it's really supporting our teachers. We heard from Dr. Curtis Kane, who is the national superintendent, and he basically said that we need to do a road show. And I want to encourage my colleagues to do that road show. That is to be able to convey to our community, convey to everywhere we go that truly we love public education. And so I'm encouraging us to do that. Also, we need to remember the commitment that we have to the 900,000 students that the state serves in public education. And so with that being said, it's also important that MSBA say thank you to my colleagues for the service and the commitment that we have of helping Dr. Buck lead this district, and then to all of the staff here, and then to our community at large for all that you do to truly serve our students. Also, just a few reminders. The Carter D. Ward Excellence of Advocacy Award is accepting applications. That is exceptional nominations for school board members who excel in advocating for public education. The winner will be announced next year, and so we have until August the 31st to submit that board member that we feel is being a super advocate. Also, deadline for August 31st. If you desire to make proposals or revisions for the advocacy stances for MSBA, you have until August 31st to do so. Basically, that is our way of being able to make a statement for state lawmakers, for our community, to the media, to truly express our support for public education. We get to talk about matters with our advocacy of school board elections, also about the vouchers, about charter school expansion. And so if you have a position that you feel that the state should really be focusing on, please submit that by August 31st so that we can continue to serve all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Sparks. Great.
President Campbell, I would just, on that point, it's important if we're going to submit those that they go to him and you so that they can be sent on. I think that that's an important distinction there.
That is very important. And then also, it's important that we get those because we'll be voting on them as a delegation come November here in Kansas City for the conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Great. All right.
Thank you. All right, well, I don't have any committee meeting notes to report. I did want to just highlight a couple events that I've attended recently. So as a board, we got to take a tour of the East Trails Middle School. It's looking fantastic. I'm excited for all the students that are going to get to enter it this year. I attended a 2022 school law seminar in Columbia, Missouri. I attended the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce New Teacher Breakfast, and the gift from the Education Foundation for each teacher was fantastic. The 2022 convocation, our Teacher of the Year, Holly Dawn, spoke about finding beauty and brokenness, and it was just a really excellent speech. And I really just appreciated her heart for what she does for all the students. And then today I attended the MSIP 6 School Safety and Accountability webinar. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I was there too. Board Member Marshall?
Thank you, President Campbell. I attended and I facilitated actually, because our president was out of town on vacation or slacking somewhere, I'm sure. The Lee Summit Cares, he's gonna get me for that one. The Lee Summit Cares board meeting that was August 15th, and we welcomed 3 new board members, one of which was the owner and publisher of the Lee Summit Tribune, Linda Ahern. We have Christine Atkinson from MCC Longview. She is the student engagement manager, and our very own Dr. Jessie Segan is now on the board of directors, so very happy to have her. And we talked about our focus this year is around growing new partnerships within the community and also strengthening the existing partnerships. And we revealed that 3 of our new partnerships, one of them is Zero Reasons Why, which is a teen-led organization that's focused on increasing the conversations and decreasing the suicide rate among their peers. Another one is a One Choice Community, and the third one is the Red Car Bullying Prevention Campaign with the Children's Mercy Hospital. One other thing to report is the Youth Advisory Board. They will be gearing back up with their meetings and activities starting back in September. So anyone who is interested in having their young person as a part of the Youth Advisory Board, which is a very, very active board, they can go to lscares.org and fill out an application, or just contact Lee Summit Cares directly. They will get you the application. This is for middle school through high school, and the monthly time commitment is 3 to 4 hours. So it's a very effective way to get your youth involved into some activities in the community. They also are involved in local government things as well. They speak at city council meetings. They go down to Jeff City and have events there where they get opportunities to learn public speaking. They do a tremendous amount of community service as well. And one last thing, in regards to the convocation yesterday, I wanted to just send a special thank you to our paraprofessionals. Their work is very, very important, and I just wanted to make sure that they know that they are appreciated. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Board Member Marshall. Vice President Fritchie?
Thank you, President Campbell. I just wanted to put an extra plug in for Lee Summit Cares that Board Member Marshall mentioned. I'm actually on a committee they are now calling the Umbrella Committee. It used to be the Partnership to Prevent Risky Behavior. I used to be on that committee, but they're kind of going through a little metamorphosis. So, so I'm enjoying helping to reimagine a little bit with Lee Summit Cares, so that's fun. Back on July 27th, I just wanted to make mention that several of our board members finished our fourth, count them four, big virtual MSBA toolkit sessions. So our board dug in, and many of us went through and sat through all of those virtual sessions and got some good information and got some things done, and had some good discussions. So thank you. That worked out really well. On August the 3rd, I was very honored to be asked to attend the Regional Teacher of the Year lunch with Dr. Buck and Dr. David Mitchell from Summit Lakes Middle School to accept the award for the Regional Teacher of the Year on behalf of our Teacher of the Year, Holly Dawn, who happened to have already scheduled a family vacation to Michigan during that week. So it was a real honor to be able to get her really good stuff and show them to her when she got home. August the 5th, President Campbell, Dr. Buck, and I had our monthly board leadership meeting, which we just cover a lot of territory in those meetings. I just want to say we have a big discussion. They usually last about an hour and a half long. So we do cover a lot of territory. On August the 6th, I had the pleasure of attending the Suburban Balance Education Summit along with President Campbell and Board Member Sparks. Our Assistant Superintendent of Equity, Shelley Sanders, served on as one of the area panelists during those sessions, and she just did a wonderful job representing LSR7. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Shelley Sanders. Thank you. Great representation of all of us. Thanks. Okay. August the 11th, these folks have already mentioned the excitement of attending the new teacher breakfast sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to make sure that Chamber of Commerce gets a shout out for that. We had about 160 new staff members in attendance that day, and boy, were they excited. They filled that room. They were so excited. Speakers that morning were Dr. Buck, our own Councilman Fred DeMauro, and if you don't know who that is, it's our wonderful board secretary's husband, Linda Ismert's husband, Fred DeMauro. He knocked it out of the park. Fred did a great job. We had our 2021 Teacher of the Year, Matt Good, who spoke, and it was very well received. He did a fantastic job. And then the Notice Network ladies also conducted a fun little session after that with our new teachers. And just watching them get those, their eyes light up when they got those $200 gift cards was worth it all. Because, man, they were excited. That was awesome. So it was a great morning. Finally, I just wanted to mention I had an opportunity on August the 11th. I volunteered with another Lee Summit R7 retiree. Her name is Deborah Carter. She was actually the first African-American teacher, I believe, in Lee Summit. And she's a friend of mine. We volunteered together at the Lee Summit Social Services Back to School store, where parents brought their children to receive a free backpack filled with supplies, new clothes, and a new pair of athletic shoes. This is always so special to see the children's eyes light up when they choose their new backpack and they try on their new shoes. I'm gonna tear up. I got to be the shoe lady, so I was the one who got to bring all of their shoes to them. But this is one way our community really takes care of its own. So I can't say enough good stuff about our community and how they donate to Lee Summit Social Services and allow us every year to serve our families in Lee Summit who need help the most. So thank you, community.
Thank you, Vice President Fritchie. Great. Thank you for noting where we shared in those meetings together. I won't hit those items again, other than I do want to say, again, thank you to the Chamber for recognizing our new teachers and hosting that breakfast, and the Lee Summit Educational Foundation. Those gifts were phenomenal. I do also want to thank Dr. Buck, around the convocation. You know, this was our very first convocation that included all of our LSR7 staff members. And I just want to acknowledge your leadership and decision around that. I really appreciated that. And the energy in that room was palpable. It was amazing. I left electrified. I don't know about you all, but the rest of the day, I was just on cloud 9. And knowing in my heart how excited I was, I can't tell you how excited I am for all of our students to feel that energy and love and knowledge and sharing. So it was a great morning, and thank you again, Dr. Buck, for including all of us. And I was so glad all 7 of us were able to attend as well.
Might I say to that, my husband said, I cannot believe how excited all of these people are to go back to work. He really said that.
Exactly. And so with that, I just want to wish all of our district, all of our staff members, all of our students the very best, whether you're starting on a transition day or you're starting on that first full day of school. Just have the very best day and the very best year. Just wishing that for everyone. So we will move on now to our Finance Committee report. Agenda 6.01, and Board Member Eslick.
Thank you, President Campbell. So I'm going to go through a couple of these, and the first one that I'd like to talk about that we reviewed in our Finance Committee, this one is really for the benefit of the community because we talked about this at our work session quite at length. We have a proposal in front of us to replace the AV equipment here in this room, and this room is used by many of our district personnel for various reasons, not just for board meetings, excuse me. So when we've been reviewing these proposals, some central concerns that we've had as a board is to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible with what we're doing with the money in this room, and also maintaining transparency to our community and providing the right resource for this room that's used for so many purposes outside of just the board meetings. So just for the benefit of the community, that's something that we'll be doing over the next couple of months. It's something that is up for a vote today. Good things coming with that. I think this is great. So the next topic is our McGraw-Hill Health Resources, and what this topic is our East Trails Middle School has already purchased some newer edition health textbooks, and this request is to approve textbooks for the middle schools and for our high schools that are 10 years old, to be honest. So this approval will bring the rest of our secondary schools on par for that health resource that we're providing brand new to our East Trails School. So that just makes everybody on the same level. So that's a very good thing that is up for approval today. So next, this one's pretty exciting, and I was really excited to hear about this, and I'm frankly really excited to talk about it. So the Missouri Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development has partnered with LSR7 to provide a flight simulator that will be part of our Missouri Innovation Campus and accessible to our students through Summit Tech in the Aerospace Academy program. So that is super cool and really exciting. That whole partnership really came about because of some really strong efforts with Dr. Buck and Dr. Bonison working with the workforce development for a grant. So not only do we get this really great opportunity to provide to our students, but it actually isn't costing the district a dime. So that's also exciting in and of itself. That's great. And none of that would have happened without the hard work of Dr. Buck and Dr. Bonison. So thank you. That's really excellent. And just a little bit of detail about this program, because I was curious. The program itself has room for 48 total students, because I was curious exactly how many students would really be able to benefit from this pretty cool program. So 48 total students, and all they really need in order to access it is Algebra 1 as a prerequisite and a general interest in the aerospace program. So that's very exciting, and I asked for a special tour for the board so that we can go and check it out. Maybe they'll even let us play around in it, who knows. Pretty exciting. Next, the U-Science contract for an aptitude-based college and career guidance solution. And that's a lot of word mumbo jumbo. So because I didn't really know what that meant, I took the assessment myself. We were sent a login as board members to be able to go in and check it out. And I'm not sure if any of the other board members did this. I kind of regretted once I started because it was rather lengthy, I won't lie. And it was kind of hard. I had to access some parts of my math that I haven't had to really recall in many, many years. But it's not really a very large investment, to be honest, but I'm going to talk a minute on it because I just think it's really cool. So it's a games and tests kind of tool that really tests your aptitude, but also goes through kind of your general interests. So not only does it try to get at what you're naturally good at, but it also assesses what you say you're interested in as it asks you some of these questions. So it breaks you down into this 40-page document. So if you didn't get to do it, I brought mine. If you want to read 40 pages about me, board members, you can do that. I know you all really want to know. So that's really cool, but if you're in the professional sphere, you've probably taken these assessments before, and it generally breaks you down into how you approach problems, personality-based assessments. It's pretty standard, but for a student, it then adds some elements to how you work in a school environment, how you might benefit in a work environment, and how you can use your skills and address your shortcomings or your strengths in your social life. So that's pretty cool for the kids. And then second, from a career perspective, what it does do is it brings up these online viewing tools where you can break down your careers. And it'll show you hundreds of career opportunities that the kids can filter by educational investment from 0 to 3 years, from 4 years, 5+ years, by projected pay, and then also by the availability in the market of those jobs. So that's really, really awesome. And I think what was kind of neat about this one, I really wish I would have had it when I was in school, because I could have saved myself a very expensive history degree when this thing told me I should be in engineering, and guess what I do? I'm in engineering. Not as an engineer, but as a salesperson with an engineering skill set. So I could have, not wasted so much time. So hopefully our students can take advantage of this, and then they get put in a position where, they can select a career that fits both their aptitude and their interest. So I was really impressed with this tool, and if you get a chance to check it out, you should do that. So really exciting for that one. Okay. Bet you didn't think you'd get all this information in a finance presentation, but I had to brag on our people because they found a really neat tool, and I just thought it was awesome. So moving on to facilities, we have a change order that we're approving for our very large new video display boards that are at all of our high schools. So this is just a pretty routine thing that they ran into as they were digging the piers for these posts. They go very deep and they hit some rock, so they had to bring in some special equipment to get through all of that rock. So that's something that's going to be approved here in our agenda. Miller Park, our award of contract for Bruner Construction is also in our agenda. As you notice, probably reading through the bid, the total cost of this project exceeds the original budget by $763,000 at a contract cost of $4.406 million. But luckily, we have a very healthy bond budget reserve. We have a segment of that is for General Capital Improvement Bond Fund, and what that fund is for this very thing. And we have a very healthy balance in that fund of just shy of $10 million. So really what's responsible for the overage, if you've been paying attention, we have lots of high construction costs that have dramatically increased. So that's really the driver behind why we're so far over what we anticipated to be back in 2020 when we went out for this bond and kind of budgeted those dollars. Before I move on to just numbers, does anybody have any questions on anything I talked about?
I think I do want to just highlight, Heather, on the Miller Park. That actually was not in the original projects with the bond. That was an ad. So really excited to see, no, thank you for pointing that out, because you're right, that original estimate, was done with all the best information that we had at that time, at the time we decided to add that project. But then we know Kyle also shared with us, like you said, due to high construction costs, now that we're ready to approve, it's gone out for bid and we're ready to approve that, we are seeing it at a little bit of higher dollar, but covered within the budget. So thank you so much.
Fantastic, thanks. Appreciate that. Okay, so as far as the finance, transfer of funds, we're not requesting any transfer of funds this month. Our revenue was higher than than our expenses in the special revenue fund, which is usually why we have to have that transfer. Our investments through July totaled approximately $125.23 million in operating funds and $224.19 million total, including our bonds. And our July's current operating fund balance is at 32.9%, which is right where we want to be. So, pending any questions? Okay. Then I move to approve the treasurer's report and payment of the bills.
I'll second.
Thanks.
All right. Any questions, board members? All right, then we'll move forward to vote on that. All those in favor?
No.
Nope. Roll call. Let's do a roll call vote, Mrs. Burton.
Board Member Murdoch?
Aye.
Vice President Fritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Marshall?
Aye.
Board Member Sparks?
Aye.
Board Member Foley?
Aye.
Board Member Eslick?
Aye.
President Campbell?
Aye. All right, motion carries. Great job on the finance report. Thank you, Board Member S. Move on now to item for consent. So we did not have anyone request a move on the consent agenda items. So can I get a motion and a second for our consent agenda items?
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented tonight.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded. Can we get a roll call vote, Mrs. Murd, on that?
Vice President Fritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Marshall?
Aye.
Board Member Sparks? Board Member Foley?
Aye.
Board Member Eslick?
Aye.
Board Member Murdoch?
Aye.
President Campbell?
Aye. All right, motion carries. We'll move on now for our items of decision. 8.01 is our Bruner Construction Miller Park improvements that Board Member Eslick highlighted for us. Let's see, do we want to have Dr. Shelton, Kyle, come up? All right. And do we want to get a motion on that and a second?
I move that the board approve the award of contract to Bruner Construction for improvements to the Miller Park campus in the amount of $4,406,000.
Second.
All right, any questions or discussion on this item? Board Member Murdoch?
Two questions on this one. One, when was the original 3.7 million project bid? If we're 763 over, when was that actually bid? And two, are we under a CMAR agreement with this, Kyle? With the way, oh, this is only the first bid, so we won't have that yet. Okay, right. Okay. Right, okay. Well, so how did we come to establish a 3.7 project budget?
Yeah, the 3.7 million was a construction estimate that was done as a part of our typical design process. And so the overage is just what was over that original estimate that was done in the spring.
And what about, do we have then a construction manager at risk on this
This
agreement?
project is being bid as a general construction contract. So it's an all-encompassing contract to one entity. You would call it a design bid build process. So
Okay.
no, it's not a construction manager.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then we'll move forward with, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Board Member Marshall?
Aye.
Board Member Sparks?
Aye.
Board Member Foley?
Aye.
Board Member Eslick?
Aye.
Board Member Murdoch?
Absolutely much needed, aye.
Vice President Fritchie,
Aye.
President Campbell.
Aye. Motion carries to the affirmative, and thank you, Dr. Shelton and Kyle, for coming up. Appreciate that. So we'll move on now to item 8.02, our Casey audiovisual. And thank you, Board Member Eslick. We did have a great conversation on that in our board work session. Can we get a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the board technology proposal without the optional content overlay and visual voting system based on the cost as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any follow-up questions around that? Okay, then Ms. Ismert, can we move forward with a roll call vote? Thank you, Dr. Whaley.
Board Member Sparks,
Aye.
Board Member Foley,
Aye.
Board Member Eslick,
Aye.
Board Member Murdoch,
Aye.
Vice President Fritchie,
Aye.
Board Member Marshall,
Aye.
President Campbell.
Aye. So again, motion carries. Thank you. And now we will move on to, we don't have any presentations this evening, so we'll move on to our written reports. We've got item 10.01, our Human Resources Department Program Evaluation. Do we have any questions or discussion on that? Vice President Fritchie.
Why, thank you, President Campbell. I just wanted to say on the Human Resources Evaluation 10.01, just thank you so much, Dr. Carlson and staff, for your report, and thanks for serving our 2,973 employees throughout the year. Most people don't realize, or maybe they do, that yours is a year-round job, that since hiring employees just happens continuously for the Lee Summit R7 School District. I do have a few questions, sir, if you don't mind. And to my fellow board members, I apologize. On this written report, I did not read that prior to Monday to get my questions in, and I notified Dr. Carlson a little bit ahead of the meeting so he'd kind of be prepared for me here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Dr. Carlson, one of the slides of the presentation is on retention rate, and I saw that our retention rate slipped from an 88% in 2021 to an 84% in 21-22. My question is could you just enlighten us a little bit about perhaps some of the reasons for the drop?
Certainly, yes, that is accurate. So we've had increased number of retirements in both classified and certified staff. We've also seen quite a bit more turnover in classified employees, quite a bit more actually than we've ever seen. So that would be the reason for the change in retention.
And that kind of leads into my next question. I noticed on the slides that separations for classified staffs at 298 was about 3 times the number for our certified staff members at 94. And the retirements were about the same for the both groups of people. Retirements were about the same in there. And so what do you consider a separation? You call them separations. What's that?
Yeah, separation would be a resignation.
Okay.
For new position, relocation, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. You also had some slides about substitute fill rates on your presentation. Should we be concerned about our substitute fill rates? Because, I mean, it was as low as 75% in December. Well, one of them, the fill rates was December, and then the other, I think, did I read that right?
We're always concerned with fill rates for subs, and that's something we do track, and I know our principals track, and Dr. Kenny, Dr. Potts also track, because that makes a big difference to our classrooms and our students during the day. So you have 2 slides there. One's our overall fill rate. That overall fill rate's going to include teachers, but it also includes paraprofessionals, resource aides, other clerical positions. So you'll see that fill rate is going to be a little bit lower than the next slide, where we thought it was important to show the board specifically teacher fill rates. And you'll see we were able to fill more teacher positions. Also remind you that we have done some creative things in the last couple of years due to COVID, and we're going to continue those where we have building subs to support our buildings with some stability and consistency there. In December and January, the winter was lower. It was a difficult winter with COVID and the absences we saw.
Well, I really appreciate you telling us the difference between a substitute fill rate and a teacher fill rate, because I was kind of confused about that. And so, coming from a person who worked in schools, you would think that I would know better, but I don't. So my last question is, how many new hires do we have starting for our school year?
So we welcomed 160 new teaching staff, counselors, and folks. Total, we're going to be, and we're still hiring. We're hiring today. We're going to be hiring tomorrow. Dr. DeVillibus, HR team, and our hiring managers have been working really, really hard, and they're going to keep working hard because we have openings. But we're looking at right now about 440, 450 new people.
Wow.
And that's kind of where we're at today. That number's going to go up as we continue to fill positions.
It's really amazing. It really is, isn't it? See how hard they work? Thank you so much, Dr. Carlson.
Board Member Murdoch?
It's not going to be a question for you, but more of a comment. You won't, there won't be anything you have to answer, but I do think it's important on a human resources note that the turnover is real, but at the same time, we're actually in good shape in comparison to many districts, especially across the nation, where we're seeing thousands of unfilled positions. So I just wanted to say kudos to your team. I mean, we continue to attract people, and I think that's important. It sounds like a big number, 400 and some people, 15%, but that means we have 85% of our staff coming back to welcome our kids back. And I think that's the more important number. So good job.
Great. All right. Moving on to item 10.02, our Nutrition Services Department program evaluation. Do we have questions, discussion? Vice President Fritchie?
Yes. I see Laura Dinella out there. Okay. First of all, just thank you to your whole crew. Things that I noticed in your report that I really wanted to point out, that I really love the farm to school initiatives that you all have taken, so we can help provide our kids with fresh, healthy food to eat in our schools. Secondly, I was really happy to see that revenues are bouncing back and starting to get back to normal this year after our 2 years of irregularity there, but that you guys dug in and worked so hard during those years, but the revenues are starting to get back to normal. Thank goodness for a la carte. And then also, third, good to see the participation numbers are up in the past year too. Of course, federal subsidies too for meals would also make those participation numbers grow. But I noticed that expenses for labor makes up 45% of the budget for nutrition services, and that food is just 42.6%. So humans, the actual staffing is more than the cost of the food. The rest of the number being supplies and technology expenses, et cetera. So anyway, I also thought that your 10-year replacement plan sounds like a very useful tool. I'm glad you guys are planning for that. I know your equipment, when it goes, it is big and it's expensive. And so thank you for looking ahead. And just many thanks to nutrition staff for their flexibility that you also pointed out in your report, and being willing to move locations when necessary to make up for staffing shortages throughout the school year, because as has been pointed out before in many of our discussions, we have had classified staff shortages in both nutrition services and custodial and other areas. And so just kudos to your department for being flexible and being willing to, pivot when they needed to do so. And finally, I wanted to say great big congratulations to Sharon Owensby and Lori Dinella for awards won during the past school year. You all make LSR7 very proud. Thanks for all of your hard work.
Board Member Murdoch?
Sorry. One point. is kind of buried, but I think it is important, is that we did not lose, and I saw that you noted it, obviously, that we did not lose our food supplier. And I think that that is kudos to the staff for maintaining that. So very, very well done, and I can't imagine the headaches that it would have caused. So appreciate that. Obviously, our families appreciate that. Our buildings appreciate that, all that. So I just thought that that was important to note.
Thank you. And I agree. Kudos to you all and your report, Lori. You continue to do great work for our kids. Thank you. All right, we'll move on now to item 10.03, destruction of records. Does anyone have any questions or discussion on that? Okay, then we'll move on to 10.04, our bond budget update report. Any questions or discussion on that? All right, then I believe we've reached the end of our agenda. We will adjourn our meeting this evening. Thank you all, and have a good night.